Whoosh! What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata for the rest of your days. Lakini squeezy too much matata. Even no matatus, man. The fuel price is too high. You know, for you guys who don't understand what is a matatu is the Kenyan word for bus. Matatu. It means don't worry for the rest of your days. Anyways, what's good, guys? Yep. Oh, am I recording? I am recording. You know, I'm asking that because I started another recording and I spoke so much and then I realized I wasn't even recording. And whatever I'm going to tell you, I already did. I went 5 minutes and I went to Zoom and realized I hadn't hit the record button. So, I would like to discuss about something called Conceptual Time-Based Theme Challenge. A Conceptual Time-Based Theme Challenge. Today is day 4 of what began a few days ago and is now becoming something much more sophisticated and futile. Anyways, what is this? What is this conceptual time-based theme challenge? Well, I will tell you what it is. It is something amazing everybody should practice, as it will help you enhance your skill sets and also avoid self-stagnation, self-sabotage. This is a huge problem in the creative industry and as being creative. So the whole point of making something I call a conceptual time-based theme challenge helps you to be more creative, diversify your skill sets, and whatever I'm going to share here, it will be a bit of a long video, but it's beautiful because it can apply to anybody, to any field. Mainly, it's targeted for artists or people who are creatives, yeah? But it can be applied. Maybe somebody even from the corporate industry can apply this to whatever they are doing, if you get me. Yes, anyways, we have this problem, yeah? You start working on one track and you're just on that track. That is very, very bad. That is not being creative. That is you forcing issues, yeah? And especially when there is so much more to explore in this whole world. And hence, I'm going to break down how I prepared this challenge for myself, which started 4 days ago. And in 4 hours, I made a 4-minute track. And when I say a track, I mean you actually make a track. You just don't put a loops, yeah, and say, oh, no. Like a proper good sounding track, like decent sounding track, you know, at least at the basics. All right, so the initial part of this challenge is I'm going to break down how I made this challenge for myself beforehand and focusing on 5 points. And you could do this. You could make your challenge with 3 points, 5 points, 10 points. Whatever you like, doesn't matter. Whatever suits you, you know. So the first thing, initial thing of the challenge is setting the timeline. So the timeline is going to be the crucial thing as point 1. So setting the timeline, I had decided that I'm going to make a 4-minute track in 4 hours. Now, you could break this down into different ways, you know. You could do 8-hour challenge. You could do a 12-hour challenge, yeah. I started a track that was not completely from scratch. I did not start this track from scratch, but it was literally nothing. It was something I'd made a while ago, or it's something you might have worked a while ago, and it was interesting, but you left it because you had other things to do, and you are anticipating that you're going to go back to it at some time. And when I said I set this challenge, this was a very difficult challenge due to many reasons. It's a very difficult challenge. Now, depending on your field, your stature, your growth, your evolution, your experience, knowledge, you can make a challenge that suits you. You don't have to go overboard. Yeah, it can depend. It can be something simple also. But the whole idea of doing this challenge is to actually not be in a place in life where you're not testing your skills because you're very stuck to this one way of doing things and you don't want to expand your consciousness or your aura and your application through diversity to understand the elements of your field even more, to grow, right? So, because when you don't do this, you start becoming stuck and you don't enjoy life. The whole point of me even sitting here to make music is I'm trying to enjoy life. But we usually set targets. Targets are different, yeah? Targets are different, and actually sitting and having fun and challenging yourself is a very different thing, because when you challenge, you learn more. Targets are something you set and you're working towards. You have to separate these two things. And hence I'm saying this would be an interesting subject, I hope. And you can figure out something. So without any further ado, let's go on to the second, third, fourth and fifth part. Yeah. Now of my challenge, which I designed for myself. Now you can make maybe 3 things in your challenge. 5, 10, I don't know. Maybe 3 to 5 are enough, yeah? It can even be 2 things, right? So for example, me setting targets in an individual project I'm working right now, I would just decide that today I'm going to work on these 2 elements. That's it. And then I can maybe move to another track. But setting a challenge is something completely different. So I chose to work on something which was very rough, by the way. As I move on, I'll even explain to you what was actually here, and all the work I put in is part of the day I actually started the challenge 4 days ago. There was no track. There's just an idea. But this concept played in my head for 3 years, man, because I did not get to use my computer for 1.5 years. So, you know, I always thought of this track, and I always thought what other elements I need to get to it. So without any further ado, I'm going to zoom in the camera, and you won't be able to see me anymore because I will explain to you what I did in particular during this challenge period, which was mainly actually 4 hours, right? And so I'll zoom in right now. Yeah, I think that should be enough. That should be good, because as I move ahead and explain to you what my challenge is, and again, I don't think you'll be able to see me, but the whole idea is you have to see, for example, the screen. Not for example, you have to see the screen. Just don't scream too loud. You might spit in my screen. Just jokes. Okay. Sorry. Let me get to work here. Yeah. So part of my challenge was very crucial over here, and I'll start with making a kick that's a rising kick. Yeah, and you will see that this kick is rising. Can I zoom more than that? Every 4 bars. Yeah, every 4 complete musical bars, my kick goes to a new note, and it keeps going there all the way. So I literally started from one of the lowest octaves, which is D minor 2, and it goes right up till almost halfway to C5. And why I did this is because someone told that you can never put many multiple kicks and master them with one bass, which is total bullshit. If you are a good mixing engineer, as you can see, this is a rising fucking kick, right? All the way. Every 4 complete musical bars, this kick goes up. Yep. So, that was one part of the challenge, which was premeditated. Before I started this 4-hour challenge, it was thought out, yeah? And it's actually one of the things that I had laid out already previously, about 3 years ago. The bass was not ready. Now this bass was the most challenging part of my this entire track that I'm making. Because without this bass, this ain't no track. And where the feeling, where the concept, where the ideology of this bass comes from is there's an artist called Procs. Hence I've been calling this thing that I've been doing the past few days Proxy. Procs is the name of this artist, who's a psytrance musician from Argentina, I think. And he has a very, very unique sound of a bass, right? And it's not something everybody is producing. And even if you produce it, it's very strange because the kind of sound design that you'll have to lay over it will also have to be pretty peculiar, to say, you know. So, as I was mentioning, so what I have over here is, first of all, I have Procs' bass, yeah, and the kick. And these two things, and to mix these two elements with each other and for them to work with each other, that's another story. That's not like engineering, but even making the sound design, having the most right kick, you know, like a kick that will start from literally the lowest note. My computer's on. To going to the, feel that chunk, yeah. It's very deep and it rises all the way. And why this was a challenge? Because some guy someday was arguing with me that this is not possible. You know, you cannot have a rising kick in a track that can do a few octaves. I said you can. It's all upon the selection of the right type of kick, you know, and also then mixing down that kick well, and most importantly, for that kick to work with the bass. Now, the bass is the most easiest fucking fluid bass, yeah? So, this whole bass line, this is 4 minutes. But it's just one bass line. And also, very importantly, it's an up bass. And to mix these two elements with each other and for them to work with each other, that's another story. That's not like engineering. But even making the sound design, having the most right kick. I made it from a synth as an ARP. It's not like a regular bass line where you hit notes, yeah. It's just one big note, as you'll see over here. Look at that. That's the whole track. That's the bass. I've just chopped it up in some places where I don't want it to play. It's magic. And you know, I always wanted to create this kind of bass, and I've tried before. There's another 1-2 tracks I have something nice. But then I had to nail this element because from the first time I heard Procs' music, I always felt like that was something that always was in my head. So, you know, when I heard he uses bass lines like that, I wanted to magnify it. So, I didn't want to magnify it, sorry, it magnified my imagination, you know, that there is so many endless possibilities in sound design or music making or creativity in no matter whatever field you are. You don't have to look at things in one way. It's always good to look at things and create and be creative in many diverse or multiple ways. Now here's the bass. Here's the kick. So you notice that the bass is very rubbery. It's like rubber, you know. I mean, it sounds really different when you actually hear it in real compared to, of course, I'm recording this from my phone. So you'll excuse me if you'll hear things a bit differently. But right now, on my 4th day, I've already finished all my major arrangements in the track. Yeah, so that literal 4-hour challenge led up to something really good because the dynamics of whatever I had put in place was so encouraging that it actually I usually do work on like 4 tracks to 8 tracks in a day, you know. I keep jumping. I have a mission. In this track, I have to go fix this, you know. There's a lot of work fixing a lot of time, you know. So the third part of my concept and my theme was having Arabic feel. So Procs makes this very Pixie style of music, you know, because of that bass line itself. The bass line is so Pixie, so you know you end up adding more Pixie sounds and stuff like that. You know, but I had to try something new because I do feel like the bass line is a bit like his, but I wanted in my theme and my challenge to challenge myself to put Arabic sounds and Arab sounds on this bass line, and that was the whole concept. So how this concept was built, yeah, and there's only one instrument that is acting as a bass guitar right now. So this is an Arabic sound. Yeah, this is something I'd made 3 years back, and it was out here with this kick. It was only out here with this kick and another 1 or 2 valves, and this instrument, which is acting in it's giving an Arabic kind of a tone and sound. It's called a kaman, and you could say it's a replica of a Western bass guitar. So the idea of the track was something a bit mystical and Middle Eastern kind of vibe to the track, but over a psychedelic groovy fucking bass line, and with some fucking funny other squeaky sounds and screechy sounds and whining sounds, you know, like the Arabic music. It's very dynamic, and then it gets like quite like deep, you know, and that's the idea, but also keeping the excitement alive. And hence I made this sound. That was a few years back. And it was already exported in WAV. Yeah. So I already had this loaded, man, onto the track. Yeah. So now this element itself gives this very sad feeling to the music. But if you keep making the music with that, and it's electronic, maybe it will get a bit too dull for some people, if you get what I mean. And the whole idea of making music is it has to be dynamic, right? So to go along with it, the idea was to add excitement to this sound, and hence comes in one of the most important sounds in this recording, which I had been sharing in my previous videos if you watched them, which was like this screaming sound, you know. This is the one. Now it's more, and this is when it's off. Here it comes. It's distorting. And this is again now when it's on. It gives a very soothing. Due to dynamics and how it has to be positioned into the track, the whole mixing of this sound makes this sound completely change and give it from a raspy, distorting, attacking, screeching sound to now making it more melodic and almost sound like some Arabic string instrument. Play the command and this together, it makes a bit more sense. It adds that exciting element to the command, which is a bit like a dull, sad kind of instrument. So the whole idea was to make it into a string, but a string that has no end. So it's like every string is sliding into the other one so fluidly. It's not like going, but it's not like ting tong ting tong ting ting ting. You know, you can't hear those separations, but yet the notes are changing, but fluidly. And that was the most challenging part of this entire challenge so far, to make this freaky sound that I call actually the freak analog to sit in the track with all the other tracks and actually bring more life to the track, but not fuck up all these sounds, because it's so powerful. The minute you put it on all the other sounds, you could do a recording, but the minute you fucking test it on some good speakers, these speakers are just okay, or some fucking killer headphones, and then you just realize that sound is so shit. I have over here the most important lead. So I have my starting lead over here, and I have my secondary lead. So I have my primary lead and I have my secondary lead, and when this part hits of the track, that's bomb. And also the primary lead still plays along even with my secondary lead later on in the track. In the 4-minute track, I have the main part, the interlude, and what could be the final, this part that comes in over here from here on, that's the climax. You're entering a more of a climax area of the track. Before again there'll be a bit down and up again, yeah. So this track, this sound becomes the most crucial part of the sound design, because it's what kills the track. Because without this sound, the track maybe you could have gone on, but like what element do you add? So it adds a lot of power, harmonics, and makes the track totally come to life. building up to the theme, yeah. And so the idea was also, when I do the challenge, not am I going to only make a track and make all the sounds together and make something work out, but also the track has to sound nice. So I was also mixing down. I was working immediately when the kick and bass, so I was happy the first I started doing the kick and bass, man. Of course, I've micro-tuned and made them sound more fine over the past few days, but even on the first day of the challenge, within the first 6 hours, the kick and bass was pretty nice, man. The whole idea of point 4 was I make a decent track with a decent mix down, good elemental blending, and cohesive arrangements. So good cohesive arrangement, music writing skills, but it has a decent mix down and elemental blending. So the entire blending process of all the sounds with the mixing channels and all the effects that are put onto the sounds, choosing the right elements, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah. And of course, part 5 of the sound design also goes in a way in alignment with part 4, is the sound design. Now, that was one of the most crucial things behind the track, is the entire sound design. It's one thing to have the theme, it's one thing to build the challenge, but when you actually come down to making the track live is where all your skills come in. That's, well, the important parts of this whole challenge. Proxy 4-day. The 4-day proxy. Where have you reached here? the PC can't even handle it because there's so much stuff going on over here. On each of these sounds, I'm literally at some points touching 90 of my CPU. My CPU is gonna blow. So I'm gonna take a break from this track as I get back to other tracks, but I have a tip before I finish this off, and the tip is I can actually continue this track. I can continue this track because I've left it off in a good place, and I can just take this end bit and I start a new arrangement where I clone this project and I start from the last bit and then continue the track on a new file. And maybe there are new sounds. I can keep some things on mute, so I have all my CPU back again. So if you have less CPU, my CPU is very old, man. Fuck. So it's only 32-bit. I'm using still Windows 7, you know. So I'm using Windows 7. Yeah, with 32-bit, man. So I'm just like 4 GB RAM. The RAM is halfway, but the CPU is too much because the amount of processing that I'm doing over here, in a lot of cases, a lot of these things are being parallel processed also. So the computer has had it with this track. I'm very happy. The results in 4 days, it's been a very good journey. And I thought it's good to share such journey because also I can describe how I do these challenges. Yeah. Once every month, once every 2 months. If you could do it once in 2 weeks, you could align yourself for challenges. It's very good because you don't want to be doing this one painting that you have started and you're just doing this one painting, you know. So why not do 10 paintings? So for me, like, I have a lot of tracks, but why not start another fucking new track? Yeah. Of course, now that this track is ready, just because of this kick and bass and few of the other elements I have here, I can remodify them and make now a whole album of this style. And that's what I am trying to achieve and go towards slowly in my life, is like have multiple types of sound projects. It's not like I'm just doing this one type of approach and sound design. Though I have some tracks, I can just take those tracks and make a fucking... but I'm just trying to do this because that experimentation process is always teaching me so much more. It's always opening new doors and windows. Not Bill Gates windows, if you know what I mean. Anyways, nataka kusema kwaheri, man, which means bye-bye. At nitaku... Kutana na wewe next time. Bye bye.